afternoon, and today I'm not preaching. Today I'm just sharing on a topic that is very passionate, that is very lively, that is very relevant to the time we are living in. The topic of today is handling or dealing with loss. And before we can start our discussion today, shall we say a short prayer? Father, in the name of Jesus, I want to thank you. I want to bless you. Thank you, dear Lord, because I know, oh God, that your word brings life. Your word brings comfort. Your word brings healing. I thank you, Father, because I know that as we share with my viewers this day, oh God, that you would comfort somebody, that you would help somebody go through this very difficult moment of grieving and loss. This is my humble prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. I know this is off from what I normally share, but kindly allow me, because of what we have gone through and because of the times we are staying in or we are living in, to share the topic of loss. I have been checking on my social forum, and every time there are fundraisers, there's an announcement of death, there are people who are crying, people who are weeping. You look at the news, we are talking about loss, people doing crazy things. And I got thinking, things are not getting easier. Things are getting difficult day in by day out. I do not think there is a single homestead where they have not suffered a loss. It could be a loss probably due to death, or could be due to other reasons which we are going to look at. But today, as we share together, I believe we are going to learn on how we can be of help, how we ourselves can handle loss and grief, and how, even if it's not us going through grief, how we can be a support structure to those who are going through grief. I want to read just one verse because as a Christian, I believe that the Lord is the best comforter. The Lord allows all things to happen for our good. Kindly allow me to refer to Psalms chapter 34. I'm reading from verse 18 in the NIV version, or rather the New King James Version. The Lord is near unto them who are of a broken heart. The Lord is near unto them who are of a broken heart, and saves such as be of a contrite spirit. The Lord is near. I want to encourage us before we can start the lesson for today that the Lord is near. And even now, you might not feel Him. You might be feeling like nobody cares. But I will tell you, when everybody has gone, when all things have gone, when all the finances have left, I still want to tell you, David had the confidence to say that the Lord is near. So, what is loss? Or what is grief? Grief is a feeling that all of us at one point or the other go through as a result of loss. Now, when death happens, we have certain emotional feelings, or you have seen some people behave in a certain way because they are going through something that was unexpected, something that has changed or has altered their life patterns. So, what are we talking of as loss, or how does loss occur? Now, loss could be as a result of someone has passed on, a loved person. It could be a husband, it could be a parent, it could be a sister, it could be a brother, it could be a close relative, it could be even be a friend, it could be an employer, it could be somebody you knew, a neighbor. But when death comes, it leaves a void, or there is that feeling of an emptiness. Even if it is not death, during the season we are in, So we have said, number one, that grief could come as a result of death. Number two, as a result of loss of business or loss of job opportunities, especially in the time we are in. We know a lot of businesses have collapsed. You know, a lot of businesses have gone down. You know, opportunities have been lost because companies are folding up or relocating or downsizing. So again, loss could could occur. Number two, because of loss of job or loss of a business opportunity. It could be a loss arising from a divorce or a separation or a breakup in a relationship. That still brings grief. It could also be loss from a miscarriage, and especially for us ladies, that when you are expectant and you are expecting, especially if you have been expecting this baby, trimester 1, trimester 2, or even in month 1, or even in 3 weeks. The minute you know that you're carrying a baby and then miscarriage happens, there is a feeling of loss. There is a feeling of grief. Now, those are just a few examples, and I've said number one is death. That grief could arise from death. Grief could arise from job loss or opportunities are lost. It could arise from a broken relationship or a divorce. It could arise from a retrenchment. All these, they cause us to have a feeling. And the feelings that we are going to look at arise is what you are calling the feeling of grief. So how do you know that you are grieving, or how do you know that your friend is grieving? There are emotional signs that you or your friend or your neighbor or your boss or your junior could be grieving. There is what you call emotional imbalance. They could be feeling numb. Really, I'm just there. I don't feel happy. I don't feel excited. I'm just there. I'm not reacting to anything. They could be feeling an emotional sadness. They are really sad. Some people just cry from nothing. They are so sad. There is such a depth, a sadness inside of them that they can't even depict where it came from. Some people start feeling guilty. A feeling of guilt occurs, especially in issues relating to relationships. Some people could feel very angry. I'm talking of the emotional signs of someone grieving, or emotional signs that you could be grieving. Meaning, you are angry at nothing. You get so irritable at such a small thing. You become irritated very fast, or you could be feeling fearful. So some of the emotional signs I've said, number one is a feeling of numbness, a feeling of sadness. Number two, number three is guilt. Number four is anger, or you get angry. And number five is fearful. Now, these are emotional. Could we also be having physical signs that could complement the emotional bit? The physical symptoms of somebody who is grieving from a loss include, number one, tiredness from doing nothing. You feel fatigued and you have not worked, you have not labored. You feel fatigued. Some people get nauseated, they feel nausea. Others do not feel like eating at all. As a result of this nausea, the appetite goes down. Others just develop, they lose weight. Or others gain weight. Why? They either start eating too much, or they refuse to eat, or they eat the wrong type of food. It is a reaction, it is a system that this person, a combination of these could be telling you this person could be grieving. All body aches and pains from nowhere. Your body start aching, your legs start aching, your feet start aching from nowhere. Or sleep deprivation. Some people actually do not sleep completely when they are grieving. They try, and sometimes we have seen some people taking sleeping pills because they cannot sleep. Why? Because they are grieving. Now, if someone is grieving, and I said it could be because of a death, it could be because of a job loss, it could be because they were retrenched, it could be because they were left, they were abandoned, or they were cheated on. A spouse has been unfaithful and they have discovered and they are feeling frustrated and they decide to walk out. All these are reactions, or it's a way that people who are grieving respond. Therefore, looking at one person, you can say there is a combination of this and this and this. You track it back and say, this person is grieving. Now, when we are going through grieving, there is always the assumption that all of us will cry it out, and with time, things will resolve themselves. Now, I will tell you for sure, there isn't a single way, a single prescription on how people should grieve. People are different. The way we are wired up, each of us is different. Some people, by crying, they resolve their issues faster, or it's a way that helps their emotional get the emotional balance. Others will keep to themselves. Others will hide. What we are looking at is not a specific or a systematic way of people of helping us grieve, or a systematic way of helping people who are grieving. What we are looking at is a way that we can identify that this one is grieving, and there is a healthy way of allowing them to grieve. The biggest mistake would ever make in life is not to allow people to grieve. I do not know whether you have heard this comment when you go to a burial or when you go to condole with a family. And the commonest statement is, I understand how you're feeling. And that is not true. No one can understand your pain. Pain is personal. There is no way somebody can feel your emotions, just like pleasure. Pain is very personal. Therefore, some of the statements we use when we go for burials, or when we are counseling and telling somebody, you know what, you have just been divorced, we understand, you'll move on. You do not understand. Why? It is a shoe wearer who knows why it pinches. So I'm saying the biggest mistake we'll ever make in life is to tell people, or rather not to help people to grieve. We should allow people to grieve in their own way. However, there are certain guidelines we know that we can tell them, okay, it is okay to grieve. If you do this, it will help you ease. In other words, it's like we are saying, it eases, or it makes the journey easier to walk. We are removing the bigger boulders so that the person can still walk the rough road, drive with the bumps on, but not get crushed. I mean, what we are looking for is helping the person go through the grieving process and not crash along the way. Again, I'm saying we have seen along the way when people start grieving, especially in times of death, where some people come and instead of helping, instead of being support structures, they take advantage of people who are grieving. You have seen men who come to help widows who are grieving, and instead of helping them, they take advantage of their emotional fragile state. You have seen men because they do not want to grieve with your wives. They go outside there, and instead of opening up to their wives, they go and open up to other women, and those women take advantage. And sooner or later, a relationship emerges. Then the man discovers he has put himself in a cycle that is too difficult to get out. We are saying there is a way we can go through grieving without lengthening the healing process, or without making things worse than they already was. What I want to say is, usually when we are grieving, it is because there was value we attached either to the person or to the job or to the business. In actual fact, there is a gap that is quite difficult, and arguably it is a real gap. So when we are looking at dealing with grief and loss, number one, it is important for us to acknowledge the pain. I will give you my story. One day, when my mom passed on, who was a very close friend, I did not know how to react. I didn't know whether to cry. I did not know whether to weep. And it took me a lot of time to acknowledge that indeed I am grieving. So step number one is acknowledge there is a loss. There is pain. There is a pain. There is a gap. Acknowledge indeed the loss of finances is real. Acknowledge indeed that the relationship is actually broken. Acknowledge indeed the man, my husband, has actually gone. I won't get him back again. Acknowledge my dad, I won't see him again. Acknowledge that the baby or the child is gone. Acknowledge that indeed, yes, I've lost this job. So that is the first step. And I'm not saying that it is easy. It is one of the toughest steps to take. Number two is allow yourself to grieve. And this is usually the biggest problem. People actually tell us, don't cry, don't weep, it will be okay. It won't be okay. I mean, it will be okay because God will sort it out. But don't tell them it is well. It is not well. How can it be well when I am feeling hurt? How can it be well when my soul is crushed? We have seen in the Bible, men like David, he was crushed in spirit and he could write. So allow yourself to grieve. If you feel like crying, cry. If you feel like sobbing it up, sob, cry, weep. It is not a weak. I want to talk to the men and tell them it is not a weakness to cry. I know there is this African foolishness that men don't cry, but I will tell you, even if you do not cry, your heart is crying. So let it out, because they say when you cry, it is the loudest speech. It is the most passionate speech that you can give, more than words. And number three, grieve the way you know how to. And one of the things I have found easier to do is writing down. A way of grieving is I am weeping, but I take a pen and write, Mom, we spent a lot of time. There are things I would have really wanted us to do together. Okay, my dear friend, this is what I would have wanted to do. You write, and as you write, your emotions are being poured on the paper. Write and write and write. Write and write and write and write. And the more you write, the more the emotions get off your heart, because healing comes after the hurting has come out. Number four, talk about your loss to someone. And I've said, be very careful on who you talk to, because not everyone is really a genuine friend. So while I am saying talk, do not keep it to yourself. Talk Talk what you are feeling. Talk what you want to say. Even Job, now we have been reading the book of Job. Even Job spoke about it when his kids had gone off. All of them had died. When his health was taken away, because we know when people have been diagnosed with a terminal illness like cancer, it can cause grief. It can cause a feeling of loss. So talk to people, get a friend, talk to them. Talk to them, tell them how you feel, tell them your greatest fears, tell them how you had hoped. Just talk, because as you talk is another way of healing. And please, if you can, number 4 is stay around people. One of the things that we have seen when people are grieving, they prefer being alone. I don't want to stay with people. And you will find some of them actually hide and lock themselves in. But you know what that does? When you are alone, your mind can speak negative things to you. So as much as you can, be around people who cheer up, or even if they're not saying anything to you, they're just there. Just be around people, because by being around people, your mind get diverted. And again, the last one, explore your ways of grieving. In other words, now you know that things have happened that you cannot change. So what next? What next? Start thinking of what next? After we have done this, what next? Now, why am I saying this? It is because we know the following are the stages of grieving. When we lose a friend, when we lose a loved one, when we lose a job, when our relationship, intimacy is challenged or broken or betrayed, when the doctor declares and we have a few days to live, or you're going to live with this condition forever, or you've gone through an accident and you have to be amputated, and now you are never going to walk again, or you are never going to work with your hands again. You know all these things. The first thing that gets to our mind is denial. No, this can't be happening. It can't be happening to me. No, this person could have died and left me. How? He's not dead. Or how could I lose my job? Or how could they close a business? I didn't see this coming. How? So the first stage in grieving, it is denial. So anytime you see a friend, or you go to condole with a family, and you hear them say, it can't be true, they are just in the first stage of their grieving. And I'm not saying that the stages will take 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. Some people take a little bit longer in one stage. The others who do not go through all the stages. But we are saying, like any other challenge, any other loss, denial will almost be in every of this situation where we are grieving. Number 2, anger. I do have testimonies of people who are really angry. How could this happen? Why? How? I mean, they are so angry because they are not understanding. These things are beyond me. We get angry at how could they die before we celebrated our anniversary? How could they die before I could get a job? How could they die before I got home? If the person died in hospital, how could they die and leave us with such a big bill? If you had changad and contributed for a fundraiser, how could they die after we have really contributed and collected money for their treatment? If it's a relationship and you have been divorced, it's like how? I mean, how can he wait until we have invested so much? He's really wasted me up. You get angry. Now, when you see people in anger, do not again get angry at them. Try to understand that what they are going through, it's also confusing. They are not understanding. Now, the next thing is they start bargaining. Now, instead of this man leaving, I wish he just stayed. Instead of this woman leaving, now, couldn't she have looked at the children? Instead of this person dying, couldn't they, you start bargaining like like there is a chance for things being otherwise. Now, what we are saying is, we have denied that it actually happened. And we are angry that it happened. Now we are feeling like there could have been a better way of these things happening. Now, why this way? The next thing, usually you find, if all this has happened, some people get into a depressive state, especially when it comes to death of a loved one, or where it is a situation of a terminal illness, or a medical condition which it is going to make the person so dependent, yet he was so independent, or financially dependent, or a condition of the person has gone on and he has entered another relationship and left you. Usually, depression sinks in. Now, what are we observing when we say that the person who is grieving is now depressed? They start feeling like they are worthless. They are useless. They cannot survive without them. They cannot live without the other party. They cannot live. They cannot continue from where they are. In other words, it's like death is better. And I know even in the Bible, a time reached and Job started saying, I wish I was dead. Why? Because it looks like he was almost sinking into a depression. But I like what Job said, that I know my Redeemer liveth. Though he may afflict me, yet. And I want to say this. When you find that your loved one, your neighbor, or you are getting suicidal, then it is time to seek help. It is time to go to a counselor, or it is time to go to a pastor, or it is a time to seek help. Because the dangers of being in a depressive state is that if sometimes people do not commit suicide, they get into habits that are very difficult to disconnect for later on. Some people start drinking, and they drink and drink, and it becomes a cycle. Some people start substance abuse just to make them feel calm, just to make them feel like I'm relieved. This thing is not real. I don't want to be part of this. What they are trying to do is they are trying to escape from their current state. And usually a depressed person can be very dangerous, because some of them can even hurt others. Now, you have heard of husbands who have killed the whole family. You have heard of women who have poisoned the whole family, including children. You have heard of house girls who have done so crazy things. You have heard of men and sons who have killed families because they are going through a depressive state. Now, depression, if we are saying it is depression because of loss, it means that person needs professional help. And even if it is not somebody who is going to church, you can talk to a church minister, you can seek a pastor, you can talk to a man of God who can pray over you, who can pray with you and help you walk with you. Now, please note that after depression, The last thing you will know, most of us, is I have accepted and I am moving on. And I am not saying that everybody grieving must go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. There are some people who just go through, it is on and off, and they are off. There's some people who take 2 months and they are okay, they have moved on. But there are others who take a longer time, especially in terms of a death of a loved one. Some of it could take years. But the important thing is that this person will one day say, I can move on. That is called the acceptance stage, where you say, I am ready to move on. If it is business that closed down, then you say, I closed this business, but I am ready to start another one. If you're retrenched, you say, this is not the end of life. I can go and start selling tomatoes and start selling. I can go and reinvent myself. If it is a spouse who moved on and got remarried, you don't have to kill yourself. You do not have to make yourself, you are not bathing, you're not. No, it reaches a time where you say, now I need to accept that life must go on. So if you're there and you are going through any of this, I want to encourage you and tell you that yes, you could be grieving. Yes, you could be in denial. Yet you could be angry. You could even be bargaining over this. But I know a day is coming when you will look back and say, I have been through high waters. I have been through the storm, but I have come through on the other side. Now, some of the mistakes we make when we especially talk to people, and when we go to condole people, and when we are talking to people who have closed business or people who are going through grieving, is trying to ignore their pain. Do not ignore the pain. It is genuine and it is there. And some of the other people is like, they think, I won't go to see her. What will I tell her? Sometimes a grieving person does not need you to talk. All they need is your presence. They only need you to be there. You might not speak anything, like the friends of Job, they went there and discouraged him. You do not need sometimes people to talk and say things. All you need is their presence. Some other people will say, you do not need, remove everything, forget that. And I always say, the best part of the healing process is when you can diarize the good memories you spent either in your business or with that spouse or with the child or with your dad, so that you can move on faster. I always say, the deeper the hurt, sometimes the longer it takes to heal. But bottom line is, we shall heal. How fast we do is dependent on each person. Kindly allow me to say that there are situations when the grieving person could physically exhibit signs that there is much more that we are seeing. When the griefs take a little longer, some of the physical signs you could see is physical illness. Acidity levels start going crazy. There are some people whose immunity just collapse. They have grieved for so long until their system, their health has been affected. Because we said when you're grieving, sometimes you feel nausea, sometimes you do not eat well. You don't even know how to make the correct choice in what you eat. So we are saying when griefs take a little bit longer, there could be physical signs in terms of excessive weight loss or excessive weight gain, acidity, consistent headaches, irritability when it has gone for a long time. Now, when it takes a long time, some people get traumatized, especially if it is something to do with your health. You do not want to try something else because it might worsen my health. Or if it is a relationship which has gone wrong, I do not want to enter in another relationship because I'll be hurt again. When you're grieving too long, there is that fear. I do not want to conceive again because I might miscarry yet again. When it goes on for a longer time, there is need to seek help. And I am not saying that prayer doesn't work. Prayer works. And I know prayer works because our God hears prayers. Our God answers prayer. And as we pray, we are always encouraged to talk. Because by talking, you are sharing out and you are pouring yourself out. Comfort to one another, talk to one another. So when you have noticed that you're grieving for a very long time, so that it doesn't get into a depression, talk to someone. Go for a prayer. Talk to a pastor. Seek out a friend before you can make a wrong move and enter into a habit that you regret later. Before you can condemn somebody who is going through grief and they are getting irritable, before you can do away with them and say this one is hopeless and useless, please seek out help for them. Take them to a counselor. Take them to a pastor. Take them to somebody who can help walk through with them the grieving process. Because I will tell you this, the times we are living in, they are difficult times. Every single homestead, every single house, every single person now, you are either going through a loss, or you have gone through a loss, or you will go through a loss. And when you know how to pick out certain signals that could lead to extended grieving, you are better off. And my prayer is that as the Lord helps us, the circumstances are difficult, the challenges are difficult. As we go through this, we will be confident to say, like David, I put my eyes, or I fix my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come from? Then David would say, my help will come from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. I am talking to anyone who has been feeling, who is grieving and who is feeling such a loss and is wondering, is like, how do I move on from here? I want to encourage you and tell you that your help is from the Lord, the one who made heaven and earth. He who keeps you will not sleep. We human beings, even your very closest friend, your mother, your sisters, your aunties, your uncle, even your pastor will leave. But the only one who will not leave is Jesus. Because he said, I will not leave you, I will not forsake you. So even as you are left alone in the night time, when everybody else has gone out, when all the people have left you, when you are having that pay slip, the last pay slip, when your account is nil because you are retrenched, when you do not have anything to feed your children with and you're feeling like this is the end, I want to encourage you and tell you Psalms 121, my help will come from the Lord. The Lord will not sleep. He will not just not sleep, he will not slumber. In other words, he will not feel like sleeping. While you will sleep, he will watch over you. And the Lord will preserve your life. He will preserve your going out and your coming in. You can confidently say, I will get through this, because David in Psalms 23 says that though I pass through the valley, the shadow of the valley of death, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff. The Lord has a staff. The Lord has a rod for you. They will comfort you. May the Lord comfort you. May the Lord help you to go through what you're going through. And I know that after you have gone through this, you will have a testimony and say, if the Lord had not been on my side, if the Lord had not been on my side, I want to tell you that the Lord is on your side and he will not allow you to be ashamed. He will not allow you to go through what you cannot handle. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And for those who are grieving loss of loved ones, I want to let you know that as long as your relationship is okay with God, so long as you have welcomed Jesus in your heart, though you may not see them now, you will see them in heaven, because that is a promise we have from our Father. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you.